Today, Charts Today comes to you from Doha in Qatar. Qatar sits on the largest liquid natural gas deposit in the world, the South Pars gas deposit, reckoned by the International Energy Agency to be bigger than all other known gas deposits in the world put together. So today we're going to focus on gas, on the charts, the targets, and where prices are headed, long-term, medium-term, and short-term, and very short-term, right down to today. So let's get down to it and look at the charts. So I'm back in my hotel room, and we'll just start by looking at a really interesting chart. This is the LNG chart. So this is prices for liquid natural gas over the last year or so. This data is daily data on the LNG price, and we've got the targets on here. We saw that the targets were given to the downside, and prices fell faster than the targets, and that's not unusual. We normally see the downside happens more quickly than the upside. And these are the new upside targets that are in train. Really interesting here, pointing to really 24 and 25, and that's early next year, so around February. That's the price projection. And these are actually the forward curves. This data coming from OTC Global Holdings, the forward curves on the chart. So it's really quite interesting when you look at the curves of what the forward prices are and what we're seeing the front month price will be. That differential, of course, is interesting. So that's the picture on LNG at the moment. We've got these upside targets to $24, $25 happening around January, February next year. And this is the beauty of the price targets. We can actually project forward. And so if we look at some of the other markets, we look at European gas prices. This is data again coming from OTC Global Holdings, so really quite useful there. Of course, you can set up your data services and update. You just choose from a whole list of different data services. Could be Bloomberg, Icon, Tradeport, whatever you want to choose. And the OTC Global Holdings data comes as standard with our enterprise software. So you can get all of this data included in your enterprise package. So really quite valuable. And so here we see the TTF prices there. And this morning's morning call report just out there, so that's quite interesting, just coming in there in the system as well. So we can just literally go down all of the European gas prices. So interesting how all these downside targets been met, and then new upside targets. And we can just go right through the list of the German gas prices, Italian, CEG, H as well. So we're seeing all these upside targets now being generated in European gas markets, having had all these downside targets fulfilled. So really quite interesting. And of course, you can do this for power markets as well on the OTC Global Holdings data, and literally can go right the way through. So we can look at UK power, French power, Nordic power, Dutch. And interestingly, all these downside targets being given, and then we're seeing on power markets not so many upside targets, although Spanish power is actually bucking the trend there. So that's quite interesting. But we'll come back and look at some of the power markets, and of course you could do this on your Trayport data OTC as well. So that's the picture for LNG. Really quite interesting there. And then if we look to European gas markets, we'll start with. So we're looking at TTF. Lots of upside targets here. These targets generated of recent buying thrusts, pointing to prices that 54 has already been met. So this is happening quite quickly. That was given back in July. That's now met. We've got 72 and then 91 as the targets. We see here on the 60-minute, and if we look at actually on the daily chart, this is the medium term. That's on my chart. There's medium term daily. We can see here these targets will take a while to play out, but prices are moving faster than the targets. And I could adjust accordingly, so I could go and adjust the time factor to curve fit that data if I want, but it's just seeing the train tracks. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, we see here we've got a tussle going on. We've got a little bit of an ascending, a symmetrical triangle waiting for the break. Of course, we are above the cloud, and we've got more upside targets than downside ones. These little mini downside ones met, so that's really quite interesting. So, and then of course, if you're trading TTF, you can then look to the 1 minute chart. So these targets all put on automatically on the chart. In fact, this one's just kicked in this morning. It was already there, and now we're heading away towards that. That one came in yesterday the close, and we're now moving in the train track. So the downside targets here all given and met yesterday. This is just yesterday's trading on the 1 minute. We did have a little upside target that was given and met, little downside target given and met. So these targets are absolutely fantastic if you're trading, well, anything really, but here we're looking at TTF, and interesting to see those upside targets are in train, so that's really quite cool. And we can do the same if we look at other gas markets. So we look at MBP. So this is the UK gas market. Really interesting, again, seeing the targets here. And then if we look at the targets there on MBP, very similar to TTF, of course. And then we can go to US NatGas. So again, this is looking pretty interesting on the US chart. We've got all these upside targets in train. The downside ones were met. All of these multiple upside targets that have been given over the recent months on the daily chart. And then we've got this new one. Yesterday's thrust has produced this new one. And again, if you're trading US NatGas, in fact, that activated upside target was just activated. So you could actually, I've set an alert to tell me when an orange target is going to turn green, and that's actually just happened. So these are the targets all in train. This was yesterday's price action on the 1 minute chart on US NatGas, just pushing higher here. So really interesting just seeing that kicking in. And in fact, yesterday in our gas report, we were bullish on US NatGas. That happened yesterday. We went out early in the morning. That's what's happened. Prices have run, and we were bearish on emissions. So really quite key there that we're just using the targets. And if we look at the emissions charts, just moving away now from gas, we've got this tassel going on, downside targets. We get a new, so this is a new upside target, but it's not activated. Why? It's orange. So that's really quite key there. So I can actually activate a target on that when it changes. But downside here, and notice how these downside targets on emissions were given on the 17th of October, the 19th of October, and the 23rd of October. All these targets have been met. I mean, again, we've got a new downside target there, so that's going to be quite key as well. Looking at crude oil, we've gone out as neutral today because we've got a mixed picture going on there. The medium-term chart, of course, is bullish for crude, but we've got these downside targets just hanging over us at the moment. Again, waiting for that upside target there, and I can alert when that state changes. So really quite key. So that's looking at the energy mix, and just looking at power. We have been bearish on power prices because we really have had these downside targets. You just cannot ignore the fact that we've got these downside targets here, and the same on the 60-minute chart. So that's where power's been going, and that we were bearish on our morning call. Now, looking at some of the other markets, if we go first of all to the dollar, just interesting that we're seeing a slight change there. Of course, the US strikes just causing some political risk in the markets. Nasdaq still looking pretty bearish with those downside targets, waiting to see whether we activate this new downside target. That's what that orange means. We need to move to a new low, and we would activate that even lower, and that's on the Nasdaq 100. So really quite interesting. We are seeing the future up, so that is probably not going to activate just based on the future. Gold will, of course, rise on these fears, and we've got this target to $2,003. So that will be interesting to see how that plays out. The downside target currently off the cards because we did activate it, but we've moved back and now favoring this later upside target there. US bond yields, they are rising. We had strong numbers out for US GDP yesterday, and so waiting for this new upside target to activate there. Again, I can set an alert there, alert me when that state changes. If that turns to green, then this is the new target that's in train. And again, similarly, just a pullback potential. But notice how these targets were met. And of course, on the longer term chart on US 10-year yields, we've got really big targets. And I've been looking at some of the global yield charts for other markets. It's really quite interesting just seeing how that's happening. Good results out from Amazon last night, but a little bit of a pullback, disappointing. The downside targets are already in train there, as they are on Apple and lots of other stocks. That's it for today. Until Monday in London, happy charting. Bye for now.